Welcome to Gifted and Guided. I'm your host, Naila. Around here, we're all just figuring it out. Slightly confused, walking imperfectly towards purpose, but doing it with grace. My hope is that you take something from this episode and remember, you are doing your best. But the key word is doing. Keep showing up for yourself and don't overthink it. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, because your voice matters here too. All right, let's jump in. I lost the ultimate job and found the grass was greener on the other side. Today's guest is Alyssa Ghilardi. This is my first time saying her last name. A systems and operations strategist who's deeply committed to living a life of ease, wellness, and intention. But before Alyssa was building flow for others, she had to step into the discomfort of her own unexpected shift. Her story starts with what felt like the ultimate loss and what she found on the other side of that pivot. And Alyssa, I'm so curious to understand, to learn about the ultimate job, but to learn more about the moment before everything changed. What's the truth behind the version of who we see today?
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to share, excited to be here. Yeah, I'll get right into it. This is still, within the last year of life happenings. So, I still feel like I am moving through the other side of things and learning all that is on the other side of the grass.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I'll do a little bit of backstory and then move
Wait,
into the job.
sorry. One quick thing. This is so fitting of you using that one-liner of the grass being green on the other side because Alyssa loves building out a garden, right? She's creating this whole garden in her backyard. And I know this is so off topic, but it just makes so much sense. It just hit me. All right, so take us back.
On point. I think a lot of my analogies will almost always reference nature. Probably like 80% of them, one way, somehow. Like that's where I pull life lessons from, honestly, on a daily.
Same.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's where they come from for me.
Okay, so we're gonna expect some nature analogies. Great.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, so I was working in event production for a long time. It's like what I was doing coming out of college. I thought that was gonna be like my life, my future.
Hmm.
And then COVID had happened and the event industry kind of went poof and I didn't know which way I wanted to go. And I kind of stumbled upon some operations work, like business operations, and was like, okay, this has a lot of transferable skills. I can like see myself there. And then I ended up getting connected with a founder of a small startup in the fashion space. And she really needed help kind of in that world of logistics, operations, customer experience. And I didn't have a job. This was like 2020 COVID, trying to figure it out. And I was like, I could do that. That's cool. This is cool. We could do that. And so I was supporting in a small way, just, helping with orders and logistics and things like that. Um, and then one thing led to another in the journey. I really became the operations side of it. The founder was very creative and marketing focused and needed the other half. So it just worked in that way. And so as time went over, it became a like, let's do this thing. Like it's growing. We're operating out of a basement at that point. And it was like, this is getting real. And so we moved into having like our own little office space and rented an apartment. And then it just kind of elevated from there. Like sales was growing, things that like we were growing. We ended up on Shark Tank and Shark Tank happened and Shark Tank blew up the company. And so then that really took it to a whole nother level. And I became director of operations and strategy for the company. And we went from like the two of us to a team of 10 maybe or so, with different partners and vendors and all the things. And I was, through that whole journey there for like 3.5, maybe 4 years or so. And it was so unexpected because, like I said, I came from the world of event production. That's what I thought I was going to be doing with my life. And then before I know it, it's like, I'm leading operations for, $1 million startup that's proving really successful and having campaigns on TV with Chase and Shark Tank and all these things. And I think for a lot of people from the outside, and even for me, it felt like oh, like this is it. Like, like this is so cool. This is so fun. Like, who gets to do these types of things? Who gets to grow a
Especially
startup? Like,
because you came from a space where you were trying to figure out your next move. And Were you looking for opportunities or did it just kind of land in your lap?
It literally, I mean, I was actively looking, but I was never, I'll say, looking for something like this. It wasn't
Got
like I
you.
want to go run a startup and I want to go be head of operations for a startup. Like that's not, I don't even think I didn't see that for myself. I like didn't think
It
that
was
that's
an
what,
option.
yeah, like that's what I could do or where I could be. And so it really was just kind of like a one thing led to the next and then to the next and it was like, okay, let's do it. Okay, why
And
not?
did you
Okay.
understand what the operations role entailed prior to? Like some people would see it as, oh, I don't have experience in that, not realizing that your event experience definitely transferred into this role. But were you in that headspace at the time and did you have that
Yeah.
like eye-opening moment?
I think part of it was that I had some confidence coming into it because coming from the event space and I was working on like large scale event productions, like 5, 10, 15,000 people productions. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
I felt confident in my ability to handle large scale projects and be a part of large scale projects.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the basis of operations is, managing logistics and working out processes and things like that. So I had a certain level of confidence in that way. But what I lacked in and often was like, oh no, was like the business operations and being in the ecom space, being in the consumer products good space. But it's like at the end of the day, like there was a founder and then there's me and how else do businesses start? Like
Right.
most founders, CEOs, things don't often come from a business background. So I'm like, why couldn't I figure this out? So
Mm,
I kind of took it into my own hands to find opportunities to learn more about business. And so I joined things like the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, which I highly recommend to anyone if you are a founder and really just need a grounding type of program in business.
mm,
It's like a 6-month program and it was great. And it felt like I was just like really like in a mini like business entrepreneurial program. And
uh,
so I did things like that and I pursued a mentor through Chase Bank and worked with so I did a lot of things to try and obtain some of that business knowledge. But then a lot of it was just like learning on the fly and just believing in my ability to like learn by doing, learning by
yeah.
experience. And so I just, tried to felt like I was like, I'll just do the best I can to learn as much as I can, be as decisive as I can. And it was like, seemed to be working because things were moving and growing and going. So I'm like, I guess we're doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was there, just kind of moving through that journey of trying to grow, trying to improve, try to create a foundation really for a company. Because when you go from, two people operating out of the basement to like a operating company, you have to build a lot of foundations. And so I was like, what does that look like? How do we define culture as a company as we hire people? And so it was kind of like, all right, I guess like this is what we're doing in life, like we're
Right.
here, like it's happening. And I think especially because things like Shark Tank happened and then Chase Bank was like, we want to put you in like a nationwide campaign. It was just like, okay, yes. And so it kind of just got bigger and bigger faster than I
Yeah.
probably would have expected. And so it was like, okay,
Mm,
next project, like what am I like? Let me think about this. It was like, no, like we got, we got to work, we got to make it happen. And so I feel like I just got caught up in the whirlwind of it all, and like I guess it was so cool to be a part of something like this, but I think over time there was like some brewing inklings in me of like, is this where I really want to be? Is this what I
mm,
really want to do? Mostly just from being a fashion company. The fashion industry is just not personally one that I care for that deeply, which is something that I began to realize over time. Me
mm,
being such a nature girly and a lover of nature and earth, am really conscious about sustainability and, being part. And I believe that businesses just need to be held to a better standard when it comes to sustainability. And the fashion industry is just like one of the worst industries when it comes to its detriment to the earth. And
mm-hmm.
there wasn't a shared sentiment across the leadership to want to consider things like how can we be more sustainable, how sustainable our manufacturers are, like how much are they wasting over there, what is the quality of the materials and the chemicals that are going into our processes, and that just wasn't at the forefront of the leadership. And so over time I started to feel these things, when you have a certain moral compass and you have a certain set of values in your everyday life and practices, if you're meeting something that's in friction with those, you're gonna feel it whether you acknowledge it or not. Like your spirit will feel it, like you will sense of just like misalignment. And so I think
Yeah.
over time those things started to arise, and realizing like, I don't know if I am exactly where I want to be, how I want to be. I
Mm.
got caught up in a brilliant opportunity. I will never ever say that it wasn't. I felt like I got like a free MBA experience. Like it was
Yeah.
like go to business school, run a startup, see what it looks like to take it from like $200,000 out of a founder's basement to like over 3 million being on track. It was like that journey is what I got. And like that in itself was so rich,
Yeah.
and so brilliant. But then it's like, but then my life, like, what is my whole life and where do I want to take this experience? And so I started to kind of have these thoughts and questions and things. I like, in like the third year or so of me being there. And then I think like most businesses, especially startups and small businesses at the top of last year, were just hurting. Like across the nation, it was just people aren't shopping as much. We already started to feel a bit of that economic downturn and people weren't shopping. And so we weren't hitting our numbers and things were starting to look tight. And like most people starting to have those conversations of what can we cut? Where can we go? What can we trim? What can we do? How do we like try and save dollars? And being part of the leadership team, I'm in all of these calls, with CEO, CFO, and like what are, I'm part of these conversations. And I never considered that I'd be part of those
That conversation.
evaluations until I like last summer I had went away on a trip with my family just to get away for some time and take some time off. And I came back from this trip and I was just let go. I was just let go with
Mm.
very little to no communication, explanation, anything. It was like me and a couple other people, another woman who was like head of marketing, who I absolutely adore. And it was very swift, very abrupt, and yeah, just with little to no, this is why and this is what and how it was just like I came back. I could tell things were off in the company and across teams. Just I could just tell. Yeah, and before I know it, I was on a call with HR and I no longer had a job. And like that was that.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that was the big like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
That's where it hit you.
Like,
Before we get into the whoa.
I'm like, I'll pause there. That was the whoa. So we've gotten up to the whoa.
So I think it's really important to go back to the fact that at one point you said, this is it. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm really passionate about supporting this small business and growing. I believe in what they're doing and the community that's built around this. Like, I want to be a part of this. To then all of a sudden your values start kicking in, sustainability and like all that stuff, it's popping up. And it's the fact that this has always been a part of you, but you didn't look at that at the
Uh-huh.
beginning.
Uh-huh.
And do you think it's because it was the excitement? Do you think it's because you didn't know what else you could do, so you're just
Uh-huh.
going with it? Or
Yeah.
like what changed?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was part excitement, part survival, and
Mm-hmm.
then part just being naive to the situation, like
Mm-hmm.
I think the excitement, of course, is just like, yeah, this is a cool thing. It's a trending company. There's so many opportunities. Like who, again, how many times in a lifetime are you presented with an opportunity to join something like that and to grow a startup that's very promising? And so part excitement, and then again, part survival. Like I said, my entire background was in event production, and that had been really my background and my work. And I didn't know what work looked like for me then because I wanted to pivot into like operations and things, but I didn't know where to go or where to start. And so, what was a privilege of this is I kind of got to create my own role. I got to
Mm.
decide what being an operations manager, what head of operations looked like for me. Like I literally created my job.
Mm-hmm.
And then, amongst COVID and all things, it was just felt like a blessing to have a job, to have a
Yeah.
paycheck and one where like I can define what that looks like. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
that survival instinct was like, yes, like what, like we can create this thing and not know exactly what it is and not fully understand it, but we can own it. It's ours. We have a level of authority. We have, a bit of control over what is and what isn't. Or I could like go out into the world of this and during COVID and hiring times where my entire industry doesn't exist right now. Like
Oh,
the
that's
event industry
so
was gone,
true.
like
Wow,
it was
that's a good
gone.
point. I forgot about.
So that's
Wow,
where like
yes.
the survival mode, kind of kicked in. It was like, this seems like my best opportunity to, create a foundation of some sort of career moving into operations and like have a job. So
Yeah.
I think that was part of it. And I think the last point of the naiveness is like, again, I never saw being part of a startup for myself. Like I didn't, again, it was like I was looking at it from a job and not the world of startup, the world of building a company. And so I don't even know if I knew all the questions to ask myself, in coming
Mm-hmm.
into something like that. Like, does this align with the life I want to build? Does this align with the morals? Like, I don't even know, yeah, if I had that level of awareness of the situation to ask myself those
Mm-hmm.
types of questions before moving into it. And so I think it was really driven by the excitement and the want to like survive and have a job. And that those two are so strong that it's like, that's really all it took to like, all right, cool. Like,
Keep it
let's
going.
do the
You
thing.
just right, and you're just flowing at that point. So
Yeah.
then what changed? Because I know at one point you did go on a trip to it was a retreat and was
Like a team retreat, like a
no, it was on your own and you were out like in the jungle.
I be going some trips. I went on a trip to Morocco, but it's not the jungle.
No,
Like
it
a
was like a
jungle.
reset retreat kind of
Probably my
thing.
women's retreat to Mexico that I went
Okay.
to, and that was definitely jungle-esque. That was
Yeah.
definitely jungle-esque. Yeah, I
Because
think
sometimes when we go on vacation and when we're like, when we recenter with nature,
yeah,
we open our eyes to the reality of things.
yeah,
So I'm curious to know if that was around the same time or
yeah,
if it piqued something
yeah,
in you to
yeah,
get to that point of questioning all
yeah.
things.
Yeah, I will really give that up to the community that I was starting to be around more voluntarily. Because also before I started this work, I had only been in Philly for like less than a year,
Hmm.
maybe. So still like new and settling kind of. Um, and so I feel like I just started to build more community, and I feel like I just created a community of just like really kind, really spiritual, really conscious minded people who,
Hmm.
women specifically, I want to like, it was just, I really started to surround myself by women who were just really on the pursuit of their best paths, their love for self. And so I think the more that I surrounded myself in those community, and that's when I started going on these women's retreats and things. And I would go to, different events and just having everyday conversations around like, what does make me happy? What does make me feel good? What does life look like? How do I love myself? How do I care for myself? And I think that the juxtaposition of those two things is that being in a startup, if you're not mindful, it doesn't leave a lot of room for self-care. It doesn't
True.
leave a lot of room for
Yep.
like, let me take my day and do my thing. It's like, no, like I was busting out like 12, 15-hour days sometimes because it was like, gotta fulfill orders, gotta do emails, gotta talk to these people, gotta do. And so at the same time that I was having this exciting, cool opportunity working on a startup, I became really unwell. Like I became
Hmm.
really unwell. I was super stressed out, and that manifested in physical ways. And I gained a lot of weight, and it was just like I was equally not well. And so then starting to be in a community of women who were trying to be more mindful about their lives and what lives they were building for themselves and what pursuits and passions they were moving forward with. It was like, huh, I maybe need to reflect on my situation, And so I think that
Hmm.
kind of encouraged me to start reflecting on like, am I well? Is this the life that I want to live? Or does this actually align with my values? What are my values? Like what this life to look like. And I think my mindset around the power that I have over my life started to change.
Hmm.
And that's what really pushed me to start asking some of these questions and then start realizing that the answers weren't what I wanted them to be or should be. Like, this doesn't actually align with my values, and this doesn't necessarily give me the space to be as well as I want to be. And so I think that's what kind of all started happening at the same time. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
the job was exciting and it was fruitful in certain ways, but it was stressful. And I was starting to feel that in my life and in my body. So that with now being aligned with women who are trying to do better and build lives intentionally was like, okay, something's got to change, something's got to give.
Hmm.
And my one of my best friends, she kind of jokes with me because she rode this journey with me
Yeah.
and was just like, Liz, like it sucks when this happens, but sometimes God, the universe, whatever the power that be is that, you call on, sometimes it moves you first. It moves you
Mm,
before you're ready to move. She was like, I'm sorry that, you got moved before you was ready to move.
hmm.
But it happened and she was like, it was pending. Just from my reflections, my conversations, I knew that a change needed to happen,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel ready to make the change. And so, yeah, the universe has made the change for me real swift.
So then fast forward to the whoa,
Mhm.
the change
Mhm.
happening.
Mhm.
Let's get into that.
Yeah.
What did you
Yeah.
feel? I'm sure there's so much uncertainty, confusion, maybe even anxiety. Like what's going on in your world at this point?
Literally every not great emotion that you could
Mm,
think of. I felt the spectrum of it, like anger, frustration, confusion, sadness, a little bit of, I'll say even like despair, because while I knew I wasn't doing exactly what I was doing. It was like I had poured myself into this job, this company, this role for 3.5. I mean, literally gave myself, like, sacrificed my health, my well-being, my stress, like, to move this company forward and to help try and grow it. And so to so abruptly just have that taken from me and just like removed from it, there was no transitional period. It wasn't like
mm,
like it was there and then it was not. Like,
mm.
there wasn't like we're phasing out, we're working on, we're gonna remove, we're gonna reduce. It was like I had it and then it was gone.
Then it was gone.
Like 100% just gone. Like all access, all communication, like everything was just done. And so that swiftness, that abruptness to it, I think is what made it really, really hard and really challenging because I didn't give me much time or room to sit with it, to process it. It was kind of like, boom, take it now, process it, which that's a harder avenue for processing when it happens so swiftly.
Mm.
And so, I think I moved through the stages of mourning. I was angry and I was sad and I was crying, I was upset. And then
Yeah,
I
because you
think,
put a lot into it, and sometimes you've treated it like it was your own, right? Like you obviously knew that you didn't own the company, but you treated it as if you did. So the effort and energy that you put into it to have it taken away, it is grief. That's grief
yeah,
to go through because it
yeah,
was a part of your life. You made
yeah,
it your
uh-huh,
world.
uh-huh,
And that's why you started getting
yeah,
sick and,
uh-huh,
you saw these changes. So that's
yeah,
completely understandable.
yeah.
Uh,
Like, do have equity in the real,
Mm-hmm.
really. And so, yeah, I definitely went through, the stages of grief. And I think the timing of that specific moment that I was very grateful for was that I was amongst some vacation time, and so I had some time kind of mapped out, and so I was able to just like completely check out. Like I didn't have much else that I needed to be doing and things, and so my friends and family just encouraged me. They were like, just don't do anything, like don't try and like think, don't try and think, don't try, just chill, like really just like let it go, let it be gone for the present moment and just sit in that.
Yeah.
And so I did that. I owned that for like 2, maybe 3 whole weeks of just like, I'm just gonna like woosah. I'm just gonna like just only focus on what's in front of me, what I do have, the life, my house, all the things.
Oh, yeah. You were a homeowner at this point. Yeah.
I had
You
bought
a
a house
new home.
earlier that year, only a few months into my new house and my new mortgage. So,
Wow.
so many things. So, like literally just so many things. And I was like, all right, we're just gonna sit. We're just gonna sit. We're gonna chill. I'm gonna tap into nature. Like I'm in my backyard. I'm going for walks. I spent a lot of time with family. Family is, just such a great source of just love and support for me. And I spent a lot of time with family, which, um, yeah, there's so many layers. And I think the beauty of those couple weeks and what then became the catalyst of like, how do we move forward was felt a peace in those couple
Hmm.
weeks that I hadn't felt in a long time. Like just the stress, the everyday stress and anxiety of like the job, like having that just gone. Like I didn't have to think about any, because even like I hadn't been on a true vacation in years before that. Like I was always
Mm.
online, always paying attention, always on my phone, always on. So to be so
Burnt out.
hmm burnt out and then actually have the forced like positioning, like there's nothing for me to do, like there isn't an email for me to check, like I literally can't
That's a
work.
big change.
I can't be connected, I can't do the things, like I literally cannot. So like that felt, there was a lot of resistance there at first, but then over like a few days I was like, wow, like to just be at ease and like wake up with ease and not feel so anxious and feel so stressed and I was like, this is nice.
Yeah. Do you think that was the first time in your life that not okay, not in your life, but in your adult life that you felt that way? Because working in the events industry is stressful. So then going from that to then a startup, I'm sure there were similarities and you were probably moving based on autopilot from what you knew and pouring that same work ethic and just extra energy into what you were doing. So then to get to this point of stillness where you had no choice but to be still, I'm sure there was a lot to process because it wasn't just that the 3, 4 years that you were processing. It was the time
Yeah.
before that too.
Yeah, been on go. Like
Yeah.
that was the mindset. Like I graduated college and was like, let's get to work. Like let's do this thing. And you're so correct. I mean, the event production industry is no different. And I traveled for work as an event producer. So I was like in this city, do this thing, pack up this event, head to the next site, do this thing. And that same thing, 12, 15 hour type days. Like
Hmm.
I had, I think, more energy then. I was like 20, but um, but it was good. Yeah, I mean, it was a long time coming, I
Mm.
think, to really just allow myself to just be still and not work on anything. Like anything at
Mm.
all. Like there was no job, no position, there was nothing that I was liable to at all. And I think that was, other than like those moments of COVID, which I think had its own anxieties in its own way, that like like that it was still not doing much, but just the state of the world kind of brought its own anxieties during that time. So I had
Right.
a bit of like not doing things, but just being in the state of 2020 and COVID brought its own sense of, anxieties and stress. But I think at this point, it was like I'm just in my own world with nothing, I'm committed to nothing. I have nothing to wake up for except for myself, my
Mm.
family, my house,
Hmm.
like that, like just the basic things of life. That's all I had to show up for. And it was like, wow, that's different and refreshing and new.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like you were brought back to reevaluating your values and understanding who you are, but recognizing the resources and love that you had around you and that you didn't have to work for that. It was kind of just like it's a given. These are things that you have access to, but you didn't necessarily utilize because you weren't focused on yourself.
Amen.
So fast forward, you decided, all right, I gotta do something about this. I'm in a good space.
Mhm.
I feel a bit more clear. The nervous system is, getting into a better space. And then what do you do?
I was like, after coming out from a position where I did have so much autonomy and control and authority over my schedule, I was like, I don't know if I can just go back to a job that felt.
Yeah, that's tough. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I can do that. Like, because even in the event production world, it's not structured like that either. It's like, so I've had so many years of just having so much kind of autonomy over my schedule, my time. And I was like, I don't know about a job, but and then I also didn't want to rush into another startup, like somebody else's startup,
Hmm.
without really having the time for me to think about it. But it was like I had bills to pay, and I was like, well, what can I do? And just talking to different friends and people, they're like, girl, like the experience you just went through, like the amount of things you just learned, like help other people do it. Like just help other people
Hmm.
do it. And I was like, okay, I could start like a consulting company situation. And I started sitting at that and I was like, I could do that. Like, share my experiences, show up, advise, consult, like be a part. And I was like, okay. So I was like, we're going to start a company. I called it BTG Operations. BTG stands for Bridging the Gap because I really want to, help bridge the gap between where entrepreneurs are and where they like to be, but
Mm,
specifically focusing on their operational efficiencies and systems. Because I think one thing I realized in my journey is that operations is often one of the hardest walls an entrepreneur will hit, and they
mm,
may not recognize that. Like, it's like, I'm making money, but I'm not keeping money.
mhm,
Trying to do this thing, but I can't do it the same over and over again. Like, it's always something different, or something just a process feels really hard that shouldn't be, and I can't get past that. All those things falls under the umbrella of your operational efficiencies. And that's where my brain loves. I love logistics. I love systems setup. I love processes. And I was like, if I can, help entrepreneurs and small business owners really kind of narrow down and analyze their operational processes, and then help them improve them, help them make more efficient, or even just set them up if they don't even exist, then I can really help smooth out that part of the journey for entrepreneurs and hopefully help them get to that next level. Because if you don't have, smooth, efficient operations systems set up, SOPs in place, you're going to feel that once you hit a certain level of demand, once you hit a certain level of revenue, a certain level of clientele,
and
because
people
it's,
don't prepare for that because they think maybe it's too far-fetched. Maybe they're like, I have 5 years until I
yeah.
get to that point, but
Mm-hmm.
things happen fast.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. They
you know that
happen
from
fast.
firsthand
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Yeah, they happen
Yeah.
fast, but it's also, it doesn't actually require a lot of demand to have a strong system put in place. Like,
Mm,
I worked with a woman who has her own like marketing agency. She helps people with social media support, and she works with, maybe 3 to 5 clients at a time or so, not like a crazy amount of clients, but it was like something as simple as like, well, how do people contact you? Do you have a form? Do you have a form that then automatically connects to Calendly so then they can book your time and you don't have to do a back and forth introduction? And then can you automatically, request a document and you don't have to manually email? Like, it can, and that's as simple as like, set up job form, plug in Calendly, up, position the website, and all that is systems based. And it's not like, I got 20 plus clients. Like, no, you could have 3 to 5 and still make your system smoother for you to
mhm.
use. And I don't think that, we really think about those things until it's too late. And it's like, you do have all those clients. And so now you're like, why is this feel so difficult? Or I just don't think it's often a place that entrepreneurs think of first. I think we,
Mm,
we think of marketing, like, how am I going to sell my thing? We go to social media and we think of the
right.
sales and just creating revenue. And I think just the operational foundations and systems are often overlooked. And I don't think that's always in ignorance. I just think it's like, it's just not something we're super aware of like, what does it mean, to like have a system and a process, and like, what does that infrastructure look like? Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And considering your background and experience, it makes so much sense that you decided to start your own
yeah.
business. And then fast forward as you are how many months, years in with this business?
I started August of last year, so
Okay,
it's
so almost a
May,
year,
approaching a
almost.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's exciting. And so since starting, I'm sure that you face your own challenges with exploring what it's like to own a business and start it from scratch. But then, because of the experience that you had working with a startup, you kind of had an upper hand
Yeah,
than
for sure.
most.
For sure.
So, considering all things, you went through this process. You're like, oh no, what's going on? You have curiosity about, oh, well, what does this look like? And now, where are you today? Like, how are you feeling about
Yeah,
everything?
yeah. Day, I am feeling in my spirit, in my body, in my mind, I'm feeling well. I'm feeling so much more at ease with my day to day and with myself and my care for myself. So starting with me, I'm just in a much better place than I was,
Mm-hmm.
a year and a half ago. And that I'm most grateful for most days, that I just feel well with myself. still always forever wellness is a journey and there's always things to be worked on and improved, but my starting place is just that much more abundant than it was,
Mm.
some years ago. So that feels really good that I've given myself the time and space to build just a well foundation that I can move forward in the day and in my life with. And then from a work perspective, I mean, it's been exciting. I think one of my biggest takeaways in starting my own business is how crucial and valuable having a strong network is, because when you venture out on your own and you start a business, the people that you have relationships with or don't are not going to be the first people to support you.
Mm.
And so I've been so fortunate to, over these years, without even knowing it, building certain relationships where all of my clients over the last however many 8 months or so have all been people that I know and have previously worked with and have good relationships with. And I've been able to sustain myself just from tapping into my own network. And people just being like, "Ugh, you're a free agent? Like I can contract
Like
you, like you
what?
can work,
Yeah.
like we could do." I'm like, "Yeah, let's work it out. What you need? How can I help you?" And so that's been so rich. It's been so
Yeah.
rich to know, like, wow, like there are people in my world, in my network that, value me and respect me and want to work with me and that I enjoy. I enjoy them. I enjoy their leadership. I enjoy the work that they do. I enjoy their missions. And so that's been a really beautiful reckoning of just the importance of the network that you create and keep around you.
Hmm.
And so that's been really cool to just work with people that, yeah, I like, know, and trust and believe in what they're doing. And because operations can be such an immediate impact, like once a system is set up and it's put to work, it's like you can see the difference the next day, like, and so it's so rewarding for me. It has been so rewarding for me to be able to support people in such an immediate way. Like, I got this problem and I'm like, boom, okay, let's look at it. Here's a solution, here's a system, here's a setup, set it up, activate it. And they're like, yo, this is already great. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I
And
love
there
that.
we go. And let's also add that you were recently engaged and then married?
Yes. And then
What?
officially married now. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank
so
you.
exciting.
Thank
I'm
you
so
so
happy
much.
for you guys. And to think that, like, that's also part of this chapter, right?
Mhm.
The change and the uncertainty and movement in elevating in life and truly stepping into who you are supposed to be becoming. You becoming a wife is a part of that. I mean, there's so many blessings
So
around
many,
that, and you could just see,
so,
like, despite the change, despite the uncertainty. Wait, before I even get into it, I'm going into the gift. So, what would you say is a gift that you've received throughout this journey?
I think the gift that I received was the push, but also the permission to own my life, like to really step into the role almost of like owner of my life, like designer of my life, like creator of my life. So many years of just being like, yeah, that's fun. Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh yeah, that pays well. Oh yeah, that, like, it was like, yeah, 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 let's do it. Let's do it without little pause. Like, do I really want to do that? Does that actually make sense? What does that line from my values? And I think the biggest lesson was like, it is okay to take pause and to evaluate and to question. Um, and then to, yeah, say like, I have the right and the power to fully design my life. Like,
Hmm.
whatever that looks like, the commitments that I have, the people that are in my life, how I spend my days, deciding that I want a garden, I'm going to be in the garden because that's what I want to do. Because I want to grow my own vegetables, so I'm going to do that.
Hmm.
It's just like that has been so empowering and so comforting, and just such a brilliant realization that I'm so fortunate to have received while I'm still so very young in the grand scheme of life. Like I'm only 29 years old. Like, so we still have so much
So
life,
much more
so
to,
much life.
yeah.
So to have this awareness now, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, I have so much life yet to create and yet to design, and I'm going to do it knowing that it is fully in my power to do so. And so
Mm.
that I think has been an absolute gift, a true blessing to
Yeah.
have that insight and and that confidence in that way.
Well, you picked my word. I think the gift is confidence. In order to believe in yourself, you have to have this confidence of, okay, I am capable. I can do it. I'm willing to try, right? And from the beginning of your career, even in events, like you face so much uncertainty when you're working in events. And
Mhm.
to then go into a new role that you didn't necessarily know much about, but you were willing to try.
Yeah.
And to also step into a space of a startup, there's so much uncertainty around that. How long is this gonna last? And having to go with the flow and having to face so many changes. But despite that, you continue to pour into yourself. You, believe it or not, you chose yourself pretty often throughout the journey by going to that program with, it was Saks?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
to then getting a mentor from Chase and like constantly pouring into yourself so you can get better, you can build your confidence to then leveling up to director role and putting yourself in a position where you can succeed in the company, but also develop yourself, even though you did let go of prioritizing your self care, you were still pouring into yourself on the business career side. But then when it came down to the major change, that
Mhm.
shift happening where you're like, what is happening? Everything I've known has been taken away. I got this house.
Mhm.
Like, I had this expectation for my life. I already set up in my mind how I'm going to pay these bills, what I'm going to pay off based on what's happening in my life. And now that's changed. And to face that uncertainty, but then to have the experience of change throughout your entire career and then the support of family and friends, you were already equipped to process this time. You just had to kind of be shifted into alignment because you were already on the path of working towards like working for yourself. But sometimes things have to change in order for us to get to that next level. And sometimes it happens suddenly. And we don't like it. It's not comfortable. Trust me, I get it. When were you going to open your eyes to what you were capable of doing beyond the role? Had you stayed, you would have just continued on in that cycle of let's build, let's build. And now it's time for you to build for you, for your family. And pun intended, you're building the whole garden in your backyard, right? Like, it's just showing how, even though it doesn't feel like it in the moment, because we can't see the bigger picture when we're facing
In the thick of it.
fear. Yeah, but you are walking in alignment. Sometimes it's just a little rough path that we have to go down to
Mhm.
get there. So it's having that confidence in yourself to also say, you know what? I'm gonna go and start this business. I'm gonna put it out there, see what happens. And then the fact that everyone just started lining up and saying, let's work together. I mean, you already have
Yeah.
everything you need. You have
Okay.
everything you
Affirm me.
need. You
I
do.
receive. I receive. I really do.
I mean, it just it shows that, fear, doubt, we're questioning everything is a part of the process. And that's the part that people don't see before business is started. And that was the case for you. But look at you now. And while you're still potentially facing that, because as an entrepreneur, you don't know what's next, you don't know the direction you're going to be taken in. Look at your path and just know that you will be guided to where you're supposed to be. You don't have to have the control of figuring out that path. You just continue walking forward and be prepared for that halt, that stop where you're like, wait a second, this isn't a part of it. No, it is a part of it. It's supposed to be. So, with that being said, we want to give our audience a moment to reflect. So, what is your question for reflection?
My question for reflection is, what if all you need to find your best path in life is to simply stop following along your current one and choose a new path? What if you just chose a new path?
What if all you need to find your best path in life is to stop following your current one? How many people are willing to do that though?
Yeah. And it's the really keying in on the following along. Like, are you just following along? Are you just, keeping up with the path, just kind of following along the path, not creating the path? Are you creating the path? Are you forging the path? Or are you just following it along?
Are you just flowing in what you know? Yeah, sometimes the most aligned versions of ourselves lives on the other side of that pivot.
Yep.
But a lot of people are afraid to step on to the other side. And you found that the grass is
Yeah.
greener on
It
the other
definitely
side.
is. It has been very green on this side.
Literally and figuratively. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So if you're listening and you're in your own messy middle, you're just trying to figure out what's next, just sit with that question and really allow yourself to think about like how you're being guided, but know that you have what you need. You just have to really look at your path and seek that to then get that confidence to step into the new path, because sometimes it's not by choice. It's truly because we're meant to be on that said journey. So, that being said, Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you sharing your story and for hopefully, you connected with somebody today or someone connected with your story today. And we look forward to following you in your journey. So, how can we follow you on social and stay connected?
For sure. So my Instagram is Alyssa Deja _21. And if you go there, all the things are listed. My BTG is connected. My page for movement is connected. My website is www.btgoperations.com if you are an entrepreneur and need some systems help. But yeah, I'll say those are the main spaces, and I'll be there.
Awesome. Well, that being said, this is another episode of Gifted and Guided, and stay tuned for another episode next week. That's it for today's episode of Gifted and Guided. If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe, share with a friend, and drop a comment because I love hearing how you're figuring it out too. Until next time, remember, you are gifted, you are guided, and you're not doing this alone. All right, talk to you soon.